All right, so welcome everyone. Rachel and I are so excited that you're joining us on this call today so that we can share our knowledge and experience with this revolutionary phototherapy patch that we were introduced to just over 3 months ago now. I am Beth Blackmore, a health and empowerment coach. I started my own health journey over 5 years ago, changing my food choices and lifestyle habits. I lost 60 pounds in the process. And this was really the beginning of my conscious awakening. I ended up leaving my government career due to the unjust mandates to pursue my passion in helping people find their own inner power. As a former conformist, I am constantly learning, unlearning, and relearning. I'm open to new information and embracing change. So most recently, I started applying Dr. Rachel Maurice's teachings and guidance around quantum biology, circadian rhythm, and really harnessing the power of light, waking up with the sun, eating within an hour of waking, blue blocking at night. And I feel that embracing the power of light is this next stage of my health journey, of my evolution. So when Rachel mentioned that she was also curious about learning more about this X39 light patch, I knew that I should give it the proper attention. As an MD, I knew that Rachel was going to ask all those smart questions, understand the technology behind the patch. So I invited Rachel on a call with Diane Hunt, who unfortunately is not on the call today. And so we were both blown away with the information that she shared with us that you're about to hear about this company, LifeWave, the inventor behind it, and this life-changing, all these life-changing testimonials. As coaches, as healers, as light workers in this world of deceit and corruption, we know that people could really benefit from this healing modality by helping to support the body do what it does best, which is heal. So we pretty much signed up on the spot. We put our first order in and we did what any good daughter would do, and we patched our moms. My mom had been experiencing knee pain and discomfort for many years, and within a few days of using this patch, my mom's knee pain had diminished significantly. Even the physiotherapist that she was seeing multiple times a week noticed a difference in her mobility, less inflammation, and she wanted to know what she was using, what she was doing differently, what supplement she was taking. And she said she was using this light patch that her daughter threw on her. So my mom also noticed increased energy during the day, more mobility, going for her walks, gardening, swimming, taking care of the younger grandkids at the cottage. And she began sleeping better quality of sleep, deeper sleep. I also have experienced better quality of sleep, sleeping through the night, vivid dreams, which is really unheard of for me. What I had also noticed was this lower back pain, tightness, and compression that I had experienced, likely due to poor posture from years of sitting at a desk. And this was alleviated within a week or so just by using this patch. And what fires me up is that I know that the best is yet to come. My body is healing, it's repairing, and it's age reversing, as you will soon discover. So before we dive into the formal part of this presentation, I'd love to invite my friend and health practitioner, Rachel Maurice, who is co-hosting with me today, to introduce herself and share her inspiring journey with you.
Thank you, Beth. Hi, everyone. I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day, your busy life. I know time is very precious, so thank you all. It's much appreciated. So with myself, my background is such that I practiced anesthesia as an anesthesiologist for 20 years in Canada, and I have not been practicing for the last, it's 3 years now, coming up this month, 3 years since the mandates were implemented in BC. Now, when everything happened and I left work, I didn't think I was going to be gone for too long, but as it stands, of course, that's what ended up happening. And in the meantime, I started doing a lot of diving into information that was surfacing at the time. I don't sit idle well, and I always like to uncover information where we're not necessarily given, we're not given all the information. Anyways, that led me to discovering a lot of things that I had not been taught in medical school. And it also led me to discovering a particular neurosurgeon in the United States, Dr. Jack Cruz, who showed me the light, pun intended, on a whole bunch of information, again, that was not taught to me in the conventional medical system. we all think of the body as a machine in medicine, and we think of the biochemistry as running that machine. And that is what the premise of most of our understanding of what the way the body works is, based on any kind of modality. I know there are a lot of people probably on here as well that understand there's an energy component to the body and how the body works. And that's just completely missed in traditional medicine. And with this light information that I was starting to learn from Dr. Jack Kruse and a whole community, actually, I was starting to unlearn and relearn how the body actually works. And it's not saying that the biochemistry is not there. That is just not the primary driver of how our body works. And that was light, water, and magnetism, but light is at the top. It comes from physics. I know you don't have to understand all of the physics. Most people kind of are eluded by that, but it really is where our body works best, and the signals that we give our body to do everything that it does. And so with this information, I started learning about a whole bunch of different technologies, including energy, and that led me to these patches. And I didn't give it its due diligence in terms of the information and investigation when I first heard about them about a year and a half ago. It wasn't until I started to see some people who had then told me they were using them, and I was floored by what I was seeing. So I did some more investigating, realized there was a lot more to them than what I had understood initially. And everything I was learning fell right in line with all of the new understanding I had come to uncover about how the body works. And it just got me so excited. Again, it was very timely. Things always happen at the right time, right? And like Beth said, she patched her mom. I patched my mom because my mom was taking a downturn with her health. She had some health issues, but her heart was getting worse and she was in heart failure, and they were looking at potentially sending her or working her up for heart surgery. Now, being an anesthesiologist, I know very well we can get just about anybody through an operation. It is the after effects that are problematic and that most people in medicine don't actually see. So, and I mean the doctors. So I got everything ready, patched her, and said, she trusts me. So I said, we're going to do this for 6 to 8 months because, again, as Beth mentioned, Diane, who's unfortunately not on the call, she gave us a lot of information. She was a cardiac surgical nurse for 20 years, and she also worked in the electrophysiology lab, which is where they see a lot of the rhythm disturbances. And in the year and a half that she spent with LifeWave, she said that she had never seen what she saw with LifeWave in her entire career in the operating room. People's heart failure becoming or lessening, the heart actually improving the pump function, which just does not happen, at least with the understanding that we're taught. And so there was really no downside to it. And I'll get into it later when we talk about testimonials, but suffice it to say, within 2 weeks, she was starting to walk faster. So I'm not sure if people are aware, with heart failure, there's a lot of fluid that gets backed up in the body as well as in the lungs. And so often people are short of breath and they can't exert themselves. And my mom could not walk very fast at all. We would walk daily. And really, after 2 weeks, I was in shock because she was walking faster. She was talking with me while she was walking, which she couldn't do before. My mom loves to talk. And so it was just quite significant. And then within 3 weeks, I wasn't even thinking about this, but she had been on thyroid medication for over 3 decades. And she came over to my house with some lab work. And I looked at it and said, I bet you anything. I didn't want to be her doctor because you should never treat your own family. Said, just go to your doctor. I bet you he's going to lower your thyroid medication. Sure enough, he had lowered that. So within 3 weeks, she was already lowering her thyroid medication. So yeah, I don't want to go into too much detail about that stuff now, but just suffice it to say, I started patching a whole bunch of friends and people I was talking to because I just saw no downside at all to these patches, as Beth will get into, but it was a no-brainer for me. And so I'll pass that back to Beth and we'll get on with the presentation.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Rachel. And I'm just going to share my screen, and please let me know when it comes up for you. And just to let you know, if you want to put questions in the chat, feel free to do so. We're also going to open it up for Q&A at the end. But I will share my screen. Let me know if you're able to see it. Thumbs up. Great. Okay. Perfect. That's not the screen I wanted though. Okay. Okay. So the question of the day is, have you been patched yet? And well, some of us on this call, including some of our teammates here, have been patched. So you're going to hear their amazing testimonials a little later. This light patch is truly about elevating, activating, regenerating the human body to do what it is designed to do. And so I want to say at the outset that while you're going to hear some fascinating information, what we're going to talk about today is not meant to treat, diagnose, cure, prevent any disease or medical condition. It is not a medical device that requires FDA approval. It is a wellness technology product. And everything that we're talking about today is not in relation to a specific disease. It has to do with symptoms and what we experience in our bodies. Okay, so I love sharing the heart of LifeWave, and that is the founder and the inventor of the product, David Schmidt. David is an incredible man. He's been an inventor his whole life. He started working with the US government and was part of the Navy SEAL survival program, where he was actually creating something that could keep the SEALs alert, mentally focused on missions that lasted 36 hours or longer. And that's where his first patch with LifeWave was actually born. It was through that process that he received his first patent. Then in 2008, David found himself at Stanford University patching the US Olympic swim team. And shortly after, the swimmers actually set personal records. In fact, the anti-doping agency tested them all, but the patches proved to be non-medical performance enhancers, so there was no issue. So this was 20 years ago. Then in 2008, David realized the future of medicine was in stem cells, and he began to figure out a way that he could activate the natural stem cells that are inside the human body. So after 10 years of research, $4.5 million, by 2018, the stem cell regeneration patch, the X39, made its way to the market. And so this patch comes into the market, goes into clinical studies, and by July of 2020 had received the 20-year patent. And so there is a 22-page patent, but this one paragraph says it all. Embodiments as a result of elevating copper peptide, including activation of stem cells, improvements in energy, elevation of antioxidants. So this patent is on the structure, the material in the patch, where the patch reflects specific frequencies of light back into the body. So we're going to go into that in a minute. You can read up on all of the X39 patents, case studies, even testimonials are on this amazing website. It's a great resource. It's got a ton of information and videos. It's called thisisit.info.com. I encourage you to check it out. Okay, so the reason why Rachel and this team are so fascinated with this phototherapy patch is because it activates stem cells. So full disclosure, 3 months ago, I really was not aware of the importance of stem cells. I had heard of stem cell therapy, but mainly it being risky, invasive, expensive, and was only about 50% effective, and likely because these are not your own stem cells, right? So stem cells are like baby cells, they're replacement cells. So the old cells die off. And so they do the repair work. They repair tissue in the body. They end up being your heart cells, your skin cells, your brain cells. And who doesn't need more brain cells these days? So the problem is with aging, we lose stem cells. They become dormant. And so we don't repair and heal as well. Unfortunately, by the time we're 30 years old, half of our stem cells have gone dormant. And by the time we're 60, 90% are dormant. So cue stem cell regeneration. And so how do we do that? Well, with the increased production of copper peptide GHKCU. This is the holy grail of age reversal. So this X39 patch, which happens to be the 39th invention that David invented, it increases the production of copper peptide GHKCU, which is naturally occurring in our bodies. And it is a special universal copper peptide that is able to function in many parts of our bodies. So how do we know the amazing benefits of GHKCU? Well, Lauren Picard, PhD and researcher that isolated it back in 1973. I'm actually reading a book on it now, Lauren Picard, PhD. So there's 50 years of research to back it up. The studies, the papers you can easily access on PubMed.gov, which for those of you that don't know, it's a great online repository of studies and research. GHKCU stimulates blood vessels, nerve outgrowth, increases collagen and elastin. It has multiple anti-inflammatory actions, anti-anxiety, anti-pain, anti-aggression activities, anti-cancer. It is capable of upregulating and downregulating at least 4,000 genes in the human genome, essentially resetting and repairing DNA back to a healthier, younger state. This is the clincher though. It reactivates our own dormant stem cells, thus reversing the aging process. And so how does the patch increase this special copper peptide? First off, it is non-transdermal. There's no chemicals or medications. There's nothing absorbing into your skin. So it forms a crystal lattice consisting of organic nanocrystals comprising of amino acids, sugar, salt, oxygen, and water. And this patented lattice reflects our own infrared light that we all emit back into our bodies at different light frequencies, which activate the copper peptides. So in essence, it's much like how sunlight, the UVAs from the sun, signal to the body to make vitamin D. So I am now going to turn it over to our resident doctor and light expert, Rachel, to dive further into how this light therapy works and all the amazing rejuvenating, regenerating, repairing benefits it offers.
All right. Thank you, Beth. And I'm just going to pause here and emphasize just what Beth said about vitamin D production and light. And now light is something that most of us don't really pay too much attention to, or we haven't until lately. Although phototherapy is something that is known about, it's thousands of years old that light has been used to help heal. Now it would be like a fish swimming in water. If you asked a fish about water, they would probably scratch their head because they're in it all the time. Same with us when it comes to light. Now I could give a whole several hour talk on light, but suffice it to say that light actually changes the biochemistry in our bodies. As Beth said, most people can relate to knowing that we need that light, that ultraviolet B light outside for us to produce vitamin D. We're told by mainstream to make sure we get at least 20 minutes on our skin, exposed to our skin. So not with clothes on, not blocking with sunglasses or anything like that, directly on our skin. The other thing that you can notice is most people understand that we get a tan or a burn, hopefully not the burn, but we get a tan. And what that is the light signals it's actually from ultraviolet A and B, signals special cells in our skin to produce a pigment called melanin. And that melanin acts as our own sunscreen, basically. So again, that is something that light does, interacting with our skin and our bodies to produce an effect. And anyone in here who's involved in any kind of medicine or healthcare also understands that sometimes when babies are born, there's something called jaundice. When they have that yellow pigment to the skin, they're often put under a blue light to break down the molecules that have the biochemicals that have built up. So that is a type of light therapy. There's also something that a lot of people on here might also be well aware of, is red light therapy is kind of a big thing that's taken off in the alternative and actually making its way into the conventional system. But that's another thing. The red light and the infrared light has an effect on our mitochondria, which most people know as the powerhouses of our cells. They create the energy. So I just wanted to explain that as well. What we are doing with these patches, or what's happening with these patches, it's not light that's coming from the outside. So these patches aren't plugged into anything. There's no sparks coming off of them or any kind of emissions. But what they are doing, as Beth said, is they are reflecting the light that we emit already back into our bodies to cause the changes in our bodies, the biochemical changes. Now, most people might say, wait a second, you mean like we emit light? We don't see any light coming off of anybody. And while that's true, our senses are very limited. And we have visible light, but there is also what's called non-visible light. And the visible light makes up a tiny spectrum of the non-visible light. And one of those, most people might, again, be able to relate to, we think of infrared heat, which is a heat, but it's actually a light. It's a non-visible light. It also gives off heat. But, you know, there's a lot of times in movies where you might see people with like night vision goggles, and they see people that they wouldn't otherwise be able to see with their regular eyes, because what they're looking at is they're looking at this invisible light through a technology that lets them see the light. So that is actually light. The infrared heat that we emit is actually light. We also emit a type of ultraviolet light. That's sort of an aside. But our bodies do emit light. It's been measured. It's not up for debate anymore. We are light beings and we emit light. So these patches actually harness the light that we emit and reflect it back into our bodies. And I just want to emphasize again, there's nothing going into our bodies from these patches. Nothing from these patches are entering our bodies. All right, next slide, please.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so now the benefits of the X39. So now what Beth had mentioned earlier was that this copper peptide is what is increased in our body, and that is naturally occurring. It declines with age as well. And again, there's over 50 years of research on this specific copper peptide, GHKCU, which stands for glycine, histidine, and lysine. So it's 3 amino acids plus the copper. And what it does is it resets over 4,000 genes in our genome. And one of them is the P6, I think it's the P63 gene. And that is just one effect that increases our stem cells. So there's a whole other host of effects, like Beth alluded to, the anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory, and so on. And that's where you get all these effects from, the modulation of these genes. And so what it helps with is increased strength, as we see here. So it's not just about diseases and, you know, symptoms that we have that are going wrong, but it can also benefit people who are looking for increased strength, increased stamina. As again, Beth said, David Schmidt was patching the Olympic swim team. You have reduced inflammation, so it upregulates anti-inflammatory genes. So most people know that, or I shouldn't say most people know, a lot of people know that the foundation of a lot of chronic diseases is based in chronic inflammation. So imagine reducing inflammation. There's a lot of things that it can help with. Increased stamina goes along with the strength and energy and vitality. And I had this question the other day. Actually, several people had mentioned to me, they started the patches and they said, you know, I really haven't seen very much, you know, but my sleep's better, my sleep's deeper, and I have more energy. But other than that, I'm not really seeing anything. And I just want to take the time here because I think it's extremely important that people understand that sleep and energy are foundational to our health and our ability to heal. Sleep is the time that we do all the repair. If we didn't sleep, then our body would try to be functioning all the time and we wouldn't have that downtime. Just like, you know, when you're running, you feel like you're running on empty. You are forced to sleep. You're forced to slow down. Your body just won't go anymore. Sleep is crucial for repair and regeneration. And energy, what I like to explain this, how I like to explain this is most people understand cell phones now because we're just immersed in technology in our world. And we've got cell phones that has a certain amount of battery life. As you use the cell phone, and like my kids like to make fun of me, I've got a million windows open, it drains the battery a lot faster. And so when it gets to that point where it goes into low battery mode, it's like it's got to conserve where it's using its or where it's sending its energy. So I don't actually really know, but you know, the screen goes darker, you can't use some apps, you're not able to stream as well, things might not function, you want to throw your phone across the room, which is like me. And so it's got to prioritize where that energy is going. So your body is the same. If you're not producing enough energy, you don't have a full complement of energy, your body has to start prioritizing, okay, let's keep your heart beating, let's keep your lungs so that they can exchange energy in your breathing, maybe some cognitive functioning, but we'll forget about the immune system now, we'll forget about your GI tract, those aren't as important. So it's really, energy is foundational to healing. You have to have enough energy to run all your programs. And then on top of that, feel good and have energy to do what you want to do. So moving on, it helps with mental clarity, restored muscle and skeletal conditions. We've got someone who's going to give a testimonial on that as well. And again, sleep, I was really kind of emphasizing the sleep there. Lots of people get much deeper sleeps, longer sleeps, and it has to do with what biochemicals are actually being increased again by this GHKCU. And lastly, here on the slide, we've got improved skin appearance. And most people, this has to do with an increase in collagen production. Most people kind of relate that to what we can see. And so skin appearance, reduction in wrinkles, the age spots may be reversing, less of the spider veins on the skin, and tightening of the skin. And while that is nice to have, yes, the collagen increase, the collagen does so much more. It is the most abundant protein in the body, and it is part of the fascial network, which is what basically is holds the structure of our body. And it is so crucial that we have that collagen. And so increasing collagen actually improves every single part of our body, and including our blood vessels. Our blood vessels are lined with smooth muscle and also that fascia, which we need the collagen for. All right, next slide, please. So this is just one example of one of the studies that was done to show how it improves brain cognition and inflammation. And so this was a functional EEG scan that was taken, and you don't need to know the details of what's taking place here. I'll just explain what's happening. On the left-hand side, the colors, what the colors mean is red is inflammation, and blue is really low activity. And so on the left-hand side, session 1 is where the person had not taken or had not used the patches yet. And so you can see that there's a good amount of inflammation there, and there's not a lot of brain activity happening. Now, session 2 in the middle, that's 3 weeks after being on the X39 patch. So that's the stem cell patch. You can see that there's some green starting to show up. There's no more red, or there's just a tiny amount. So there's a reduction in inflammation. That green color is actually an increase in what's called coherence. Now, coherence is where you've got both sides of the brain speaking to each other. Now we've got a right hemisphere and a left hemisphere. We think of having one brain, but we kind of have two brains, and they actually do different things. They can do the same things, but they are better when they do different things and then communicate to each other so that, they can do the best that they can do and tell the other side of the brain what's going on. Now we want coherence. Oftentimes we don't have it. On the left in session 1, there really wasn't coherence. We're starting to see some coherence in the session 2, 3 weeks after the X39. And in session 3, 6 weeks after being on the X39, we see some more coherence, still no inflammation. There's no more red, and there's less blue, blue is low activity. So the brain is starting to come more back online. Next slide, please. So as far as long-term results here, I just want to point out for those of you who like studies, and as Beth mentioned, there are an immense number of studies on GHKCU. The 80 case studies talking about here, these are on the actual patches. So this is it info.com, you will see the studies done on the X39, and I believe there are 9 studies done. The rest of the studies are on the patches that he had created before the X39, but there are 80 case studies in total, and they are independently done studies. So again, going through what GHKCU does, what they found after being on the patch for just a few days, it's within 48 hours, they started to see resetting of over 4,000 genes. Now, that was just the beginning. It happens, there's a progression the more time you're on these patches. Within 6 weeks, just as we saw from the previous slide, the brain starts to become more balanced, more coherent. So what does that lead to? That leads to what we feel as symptoms. Oftentimes people will feel brain fog, or just, their mental clarity isn't there, their memory isn't there. There's also sort of the emotions and stuff that come along with it. There's depression and anxiety. And what we have seen with this is a reduction in a lot of those symptoms. Within 3 months, I talked about collagen being crucial. Start to see upregulation and an increase in collagen production. And again, what I didn't touch on there, and although some people might think of it as just aesthetic, there is more to it. Collagen is also one of the things that we see, in hair and in our eyes and our nails. And so a lot of people have seen color reverse, graying reverse in their hair. And, I have a couple of testimonies I'll explain, I'll get to after, when we talk about the testimonials, when it comes to eyes. Within 6 months, and this was the really big one for me when it came to my mom and got me to just jump into this, was heart reversal. So within 6 months of wearing the patches, they have shown that your heart age reverses by 8 years. Now that's pretty significant in my opinion. And it's not just the heart, it's the cardiovascular system. So all of the vessels that go along with the heart. And we've got vessels that span our entire body, because we've got oxygen that needs to get there. So next slide, please. All right, so how to wear the X39 patch. So this is what I absolutely love about this patch, and especially when it came to my mom and some of the older generation, things can be complicated. It is one of the simplest things you can do. It's even easier than remembering to take a pill. So it's like a sticker, and I've got one right here. I've got one on. I think some of the other people have some there. It's the size of a loonie or quarter for people in other parts of the other countries. It's like a sticker. You take the backing off, you put it on, you wear it for 12 hours, you take it off, you give your body a 12-hour break, and the next day you put on another one. So they're disposable. They do have more life in them, but you wear them for 12 hours on, 12 hours off, because like light, and you can think of it just like the light outside, the natural sunlight, we don't have sunlight 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And that's partly because we need that rest, right? So we need rest from the stimulation, because light is stimulating. So we want that 12 hours of rest. Again, throw the patch away. It's easy. I actually just take the patch, I wrap it around my dog's collar and put it on her, because there's still about 4 to 6 hours of life left. So why not give it to the other ones that you love in your family? You can wear more than one at a time, but it is good to start. And I'll just a couple of things. It's good to start with just the X39 for the first month, just to see how your body responds to it. We know everybody's body's different. Everybody responds to everything differently. So just to see how your body responds to it. And, some people have asked as well, can I wear two of the X39s at one time? While that is possible, it doesn't give you 200% activity. It actually only increases things by 20%. So it seems that it would be more of a waste of money, in my opinion, to wear 2 of those, because you're not really getting the life out of it. Now, again, on this slide, it says to drink plenty of water. So that is actually crucial. So there's water, electrolytes, and copper. So the reason that we want to drink water, we want to be hydrated, without these patches, we want to be well hydrated. Water is an interesting one. And again, I could talk a lot about this, but we want to make sure we're hydrated, because light actually works through the water network in our bodies. Now, the water in our body is actually very different from the water that we drink. And again, that's something that I'm not going to get into here, but I just wanted to mention that. And the reason I'm mentioning it is because light actually works through the water network. And there's a lot of there's a lot of electrons that we have in the body. Now, without going, I don't want to get too scientific here, but light is absorbed by electrons, and the water that's in our bodies, beside all of the surfaces in our bodies, because we're biological beings, it separates into a layer where there's a lot of electrons. And so the light actually is transmitted from one place to another in our body through these electrons. So from one cell to another, from one cell, one part of the body to another, through these electrons. And the more water we drink, the more water that actually goes into our cells, the more hydrated we can be. And we need the water to get in there with electrolytes. So the electrolytes that I would recommend would be adding a pinch of salt to your water, but not refined salt, different salts, Celtic sea salt, Himalayan salt, or Redmond's real salt, or other ones that are not refined, because the refined ones are just actually sodium and chloride, and if they've added the iodine, and we want the other minerals that are in those salts that are not refined. And so the salt helps the water again get into the cells, which is extremely important. Now we also need copper, which is not on this slide. Maybe that's something we can add, but these patches work through the copper peptides. So the copper is in the name. If we don't have enough copper, this peptide is not going to work very well. And one way we can get it is through food. And the best way is actually through organ meats, which is not the most pleasant for some people. But if you're good with organ meats, that's a great way to get it. If you're good with oysters and shellfish, the other ways are avocado, nuts, in particular cashews. Sunflower seeds are good for seeds. Also, even tiny amounts of dark chocolate. There's plenty of copper in that, enough for your daily requirements in a small square of dark chocolate. Or if you really want, you can go out and get a supplement of copper. I try to personally stay away from the supplements as much as I can. So next slide, please. All right, so this patch is simple, but it's extremely sophisticated. It's also easy to explain to people, and it's life-changing for a lot of people. For most people who are wearing it, it is extremely life-changing. And the best thing about it, again, is it works, but it only works if you put it on your body. So I think the next slide, we're going to get into some testimonials here. Yeah, so we're going to go through a couple of testimonials here, and then we'll have our wonderful guests talk about what they've experienced. So here we can see on the left-hand side, we chose some ones that are just kind of the ones that are most visible so that you can actually see here. And this one is to do with hair. And again, while hair is not necessarily the most important thing, it is something that people are concerned about, and people losing hair, lots of people, in their older years, losing hair. You can see on the left-hand side, the picture of you can see there's less hair, and you can see in the picture below the growth, how it's filling in there. And again, on the lower picture, it's the same man on the left-hand side, but then the one on the right, you can see the gray actually reversing. Not sure how well people can see, but that's actually what that photo is there to show you. On the left-hand side, the woman, you can see the one eye, you can see the gray roots, and then you can see on the right-hand side, the gray roots are not as obvious there. And this one really gets me, this one about scoliosis here, because this woman only wore these stem cell patches and the LifeWave, which are one of the ones he invented before the X39 came out for pain. She was only wearing these for 1 month. Now that's a remarkable change. And scoliosis is a curvature of the spine, and you can see a dramatic change there. It's much more straightened. All right, next slide, please. And this one on the left-hand side, if you're not familiar, the condition, on the left-hand side, the photo, it's called vitiligo, and it's where there is a depigmentation of the skin. And this woman said that she had tried just about everything, and then finally she had come across this patch, and the patch worked. Nothing she tried before worked, but here you can see on the right-hand side, the back looks very different. The skin looks more uniform. It doesn't have that blotchy appearance there. And on the right here, we have, this is a wound, and it looks like a surgical wound. It looks actually like a knee replacement. So before the patch, I've seen tons of surgical wounds and lots of them coming back to the operating room for surgery again after having had it. And I can tell you that this is extremely fast wound healing. And anybody else on here who's in healthcare, and I know an emergency room physician on here, you see wounds as well. And you know how quickly they can heal, how slow they are to heal. This was only 2 days of being on the patch. Again, that is just remarkable. So next slide, unless we're going to the testimonials. Okay. So I'll let Beth, you can take over if you want.
Okay, great. Awesome. So I would love to have Roz, if you could share your amazing, powerful testimonial with the group.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Beth. So hi, everybody. I'm Roz. I'm out on the West Coast on Vancouver Island. And I started using the patches, it was about mid-June. And Beth originally introduced them to me because I was really struggling with knee pain. And that was her original sort of hope for me, that it would maybe alleviate some of that discomfort. I'm 40 years old, but I spent a lot of years, in being very active in sport, and I think I have knees far beyond my age, but they were definitely in a position where it was limiting me in my life. So Beth shared it with me, and I always say on these calls, for anyone who's skeptical, like, I'm your girl, because I was super skeptical about the patches, and I really jumped in because I trusted Beth. And I heard Rachel was on board too, so I wanted to give them a go. And yeah, like, to be honest, the first couple weeks I didn't feel a lot with them, but by the end of the second week, I had this huge shift in my energy, and it kind of made me realize the state that I was living in. I wasn't really aware of the state that I was in, and until I started to come out of it. And so I had this huge shift in energy, which I think I also attribute to like just much higher quality of sleep. And then from there, things just kind of steamrolled, and I just had so much, like, just such a positive influence on so many aspects of my health. So for sure, my energy, and I didn't tell my husband at first, by the way, that I was using these. And so a couple weeks in, we were sitting at dinner one night, and he was like, "Why do you have so much energy? Like, what's going on?" So I had to let the cat out of the bag and tell him what was happening. And yeah, and then actually the first thing that kind of started to alleviate for me, so it was like a low energy feeling, and then also anxiety, which I've dealt with for the last few years. That's been a huge shift for me, and just my capacity for life, like just having energy to be able to just have plans every weekend and not feel like I need to take a whole weekend off because I had a social weekend the weekend before. Like, I really didn't realize how much I was struggling. And then eventually the inflammation in my knees started to shift. So I've been working out again. I've even started again adding light weights to squats, which is a huge, huge, huge deal. Like, I had a knee scan done just before I started the patches, and I'm actually quite curious to get another one done in about 6 months to a year, to just see like how it's impacted anything in there in terms of the cartilage, and my poor little meniscus that's taken a beating. But yeah, so if you're skeptical, I would say give it a try, because we thought it was going to go straight for my knees, and it hit totally different areas of my life than I thought it would. And now my knee joints and my inflammation, they're all on the mend. So thank you, Beth, for introducing them to me.
Thank you, Roz, for being open to trying them out. And thank you for your testimony. I appreciate it. Brittany, love for you to share.
Hi, can you hear me?
Great. Yep.
Hi, everybody. My name is Brittany. I am on the West Coast as well. And Rachel is the one that introduced these little miracle patches to myself and my family. For me, I've had just way more energy being on the patches. I'm a really healthy person to begin with, like exercise, eating really healthy. So there wasn't a whole lot of change that I was hoping to see other than, I'm like, it'd be great if I could reverse age a little bit. That would be amazing as I'm getting older and my kids are pointing out things to me that I'm like, oh, lovely. But our big thing was I have an 8-year-old who had a really bad concussion last year. And he what had happened was he hit his head on a metal pole on the trampoline. And we took the steps, to help. But his poor little body just was not recovering. And he was getting headaches every month. And then the headaches turned into migraines. And the migraines just got worse and worse, where he would throw up. And they were getting more consistent. They went from every month to every 7 days to then every 5 to 7 days. And then when Rachel was telling me about these patches, I'm like, I've got nothing to lose. We can't keep living this way. And in between his migraines, on his good days, I could just see in his eye, like the lights had gone out, like he was just not feeling well. And he'd complain to me, he'd be like, oh, Mom, I just don't feel good. I just don't feel good. And like, as a mom, that is so hard to hear. And I lost faith in the medical system years ago. So I was just like, I don't know what to do. I don't trust going to, to just any doctor. It's got to be somebody I really trust. And thankfully we had Rachel in our life who I really trusted and was taking her opinion on a lot of things. So we started using these patches for him, and a week went by and he didn't have a migraine. I was like, oh, good. Maybe this is just a good week. 2 weeks went by, not another migraine. And 3 weeks went by, and I was like, okay, this is significant now, because his migraines were getting so close that it was like clockwork, like every 5 to 7 days. And now we've been on the patches since June, and he hasn't had a full-blown migraine since before we started patching. He's had a couple little headaches here and there, but they were manageable. And even now, now we're at the beginning of September, and I can't even remember the last time he had a headache. So that is significant. Which that alone to me I was like, okay, that's it. I'm afraid to take him off of these patches ever again, because it just worked so well for him. And got the whole family on them now, and we're all seeing different benefits here and there. My husband had really bad tight pain in his stomach, where he would wake up in the night and it would hurt if he had to use the washroom, and just this cramping feeling in his stomach. And once he started telling me, he's like, okay, I'm getting a little concerned, because he too is very healthy and eats really well. And then I was like, just give it time. I think these patches are going to really help with that as well. And that pain is gone too. So we're loving the patches for sure.
Love it. Thank you, Brittany, for sharing. It's amazing.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Rachel, for sharing this information with me.
I'd love to call on Matt, who's over down under, and appreciate you jumping on the call.
Yeah, how you doing? Thanks, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to share my testimonial. I've actually got a couple of them. Well, there's more than two now. But for my father, who's got muscular dystrophy, he was the first reason that sort of brought me to give this a go. So through social media, I managed to find Rachel, and Rachel got me on board with the X39 and also some LifeWave. So my father's got muscular dystrophy. He's 67 years old, and his body is that of a 97-year-old, basically. So he's only just walking. I live on the land with the family land with mum and dad. So he's still running his chickens, and he sells the eggs, and we live on an elevated property. So he struggles to walk, and he's got very, very slow, even just gardening. And so he was suffering with a lot of pain, I think, from possibly a dislodged atlas. He still hasn't actually had a scan on that to see an x-ray, but that's my guess. And he had tremendous amount of pain for 40 odd years since a spear tackle in rugby league down his left shoulder. And he was waking, 1 or 2 in the morning and struggling to get back to sleep. So his sleep was disrupted as well. Within 4 days of patching him just with the X39 first, he said that the pain had reduced. So I was just asking him how he's feeling, and I didn't realize the pain that he was suffering with his shoulder and his arm. And so he said that, yeah, I'm noticing in the morning when I wake up, so he's still waking up, but it's not as sore. He's able to go back to sleep much more easily. And then by the 5th day, he said that the pain had completely gone. So we both started on these patches at the same time, and I've had a really sore lower back since I injured it when I was 23, so 17 years ago. And then I was dairy farming, doing a lot of walking, and I was actually carrying a lot more weight than probably I should have for my body type. And I had this chronic back pain. And then when I left the farm, it got worse. And I really had to struggle through to actually start exercising again. It was really tough. And then with physical work, being a builder, in the morning when I would wake up, my pain was that of 8 out of 10 until I tried these patches. And then I was noticing the recovery was much quicker. There was still a bit of pain, after a really solid day, especially throwing firewood. So I do a whole lot of different things for work. And so yeah, it would be up around the 8 out of 10 in the morning when I get out of bed. And then after 5 days of these patches, it was down to around a 2. So we were really lucky that we were really, one of these people that have really short term effects and results. So I know the occasional person doesn't see results for a little bit longer, but instant for us. And Dad is definitely feeling better. He's back. He's been over in Canada for a month, and he's kept up with them. And he also he's used his ice wave. So he noticed a bit of a difference on the plane as well. So so that's the pain has subsided, and the overall kind of the recovery of each day. So for him, he gets a lot of pain when he works the farm, does any gardening or anything, and the recovery is much quicker. So that's what I'm noticing. And yeah, lifting heavier weights in the gym. I've also patched a friend of mine's dad that I was working with on a boat, on a little sailboat, and he was really grumpy at the beginning. His mood changed, and he'd also done some chiropractor work and some what do you call it? He'd done some other remedy work, and he was sort of saying it could be a combination of that. But knowing what I know and hearing other people's testimonies, we really know that this is that's helping him. So yeah, he's only a couple of weeks in, and he's really feeling much better as well. His mood's changed. The pain, he was in chronic pain, and that's reduced as well. So yeah, it's a great product and loving it. And thank you for getting me involved in it, Rachel and Beth.
Thank you, Matt, for sharing. Really powerful. I appreciate it. And I believe Leah is on the call, and she would like to share her testimony today.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hi, yeah, we can.
Okay. My name is Leah. I'm from Saskatchewan, and I'm an operating room nurse for 20 years. I've been in the system, and I've literally worked under fluorescent lights, concrete floors, EMFs. Now we have robots in Saskatchewan in some of our surgeries. So the EMFs are really, I can feel the EMFs big time in the last probably 2 years, because there's a lot going on in that hospital with that. So that's kind of been my lifestyle with my work. And then in 2020, I found out that I had endometriosis, which I nursed many, many women before that and thought, thank God I don't have endometriosis, and here I have it. And I've seen many women with it who were unable to work, literally were destitute. They had to give up careers. Many were in school. I knew paramedics that were taking paramedic courses that could not finish due to endometriosis. Lots of people when we talk about pain with these patches being less, many people become addicted to morphine, Dilaudid, fentanyl. These are often drugs that are given for people with pain. And I am absolutely happy to say that has not been the case for me. I've been dealing with this endometriosis, and it has been progressively getting worse. With the work I do, I stand maybe a Whipple surgery could be 10 hours. I might stand 6 hours in that surgery with those surgeons. And I found that my pain and my back and my legs were getting really bad. And then that's when I met Rachel online, and I saw these patches, and I heard about it helping for pain and many other things. And I thought, I was full on in. I bought them immediately. So I've been on them for about a month, and I don't have any more back pain or leg pain. And endometrial flare-ups, I haven't had any in the month here. And to me, they're worth every penny. Because if I don't think if I was on these patches, I don't believe that I would have been able to work. It was getting to that point. And so the pain is definitely gone. And I'm just excited because so many people lose their lives over this type of problem. And yet I've been able to cope, and many people wonder how I'm doing it. So I've got my patches on here, and I wear them to work, and I've got lots of people interested in them. And so I hope to keep showing them to other people. I'm really appreciative to found it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Leah, for sharing. That's amazing. Rachel, did you want to share any further about your mom's progress, or?
Yeah, I do. Sorry, my dog was just barking. I'm hoping that she stops right now. Anyways, I apologize if there's noise. Yeah, so my mom has another echocardiogram done, or getting done actually this Sunday. What are we? Friday. Yeah. So I'm actually really excited to find out what that looks like, because it will have been 4 months that she's actually on the patches. And so she's just got a lot of energy. Like I said, she went down on her thyroid medication. They're actually going down again on that. She's got a lot more energy. Her friends have noticed, that she seems different and asked her what she's doing. So they are interested as well. I wanted to share just a couple of stories of friends that I have patched even before I really even got started. And because I knew so many people were suffering around me, and I think that's sort of one of the points that I want to make too, is a lot of people want to try the patches themselves and see the changes that take place with them personally before they actually share these patches. And I just want to encourage you to look at what's out there, what's available as strategies, treatments, different technologies, and then look at what this has to offer in terms of the fact that it's non-transdermal. There's really no downside. There's no contraindications. I will point out a couple of things afterwards, but there's no side effects. You're enhancing your own body's healing mechanisms, and everybody is different. Everybody responds differently. And so for me, I didn't want to wait to see, I didn't have too much wrong with me. I had some sleep issues, and I was feeling like my cognitive function was declining after I got COVID or whatever it was at the beginning of 2020. And I've noticed for me personally, I've noticed a huge shift in my ability to think much more quickly, to have more articulation, because a lot of that was leaving my memory, trying to retrieve words. A lot of people said, oh, it's just your age. you're in perimenopause, menopause. And I was like, no, this is not it. I knew it was different. And these patches have really helped with that. But to me, that wasn't as big of a deal. I see all these people in pain around me. A friend of mine had sciatica for 5 years, I didn't realize how debilitating it was until I was doing some traveling with her because our daughters danced together. And I said, I've got this thing, there's really no downside to it, and they're not very expensive. There's a great return policy. Like, you'll want to just try them. Within 3 hours of putting them on, her sciatica that had been constant for 5 years went away. She was in shock. She's like, I don't know. I don't believe this. I don't believe this. And, someone else that I patched, a neighbor who was a little bit skeptical, said, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm totally healthy, which, I don't know. Anyone, again, who's in healthcare on the call knows, you go see patients, they all think they're fine until they're not. And we know there's, under the tip of the iceberg, all this stuff is brewing for decades. Anyways, he didn't tell me that he had ripped his tendon off of his AC joint in his shoulder 30 years ago and started wearing the patches and started feeling some pain with the patches and said, you know, I think these patches are causing me pain. And so I just like to bring this up as an example and information to share as well, is that oftentimes when repair is taking place, just like with a renovation in a house, you got to break down what's there, the stuff that's kind of old and falling apart, and clear it out before you can build the new thing, right? So that's the same with our bodies. We got to tear down and, you know, break apart what is old tissue and needs repair, clear it out. And sometimes with the clearing it out, you get some unpleasant reactions. It doesn't happen to everybody, and it's different, the degree to which it happens. Anyways, it was happening with him. He went to the emergency room because he couldn't handle it and got some painkillers, and then decided to go get an MRI about a month after the patches. He got it. And he called me up and he said, I don't know if there's anything to these patches, but the radiologist said that my tendon's actually reattaching and regrowing. So I kind of said, well, I'm not sure if that would just happen on its own if you weren't wearing these patches. So that was actually pretty quick, if you think about it, in 1 month of, and that, you know, that's a subjective measurement. That's not, or objective, not subjective. So a recent one as well, my mom, because she was looking so great, and a lot of her friends were like, well, I want to try this. One of her friends' husband put the patches on because he was having headaches. And she went over to see him yesterday. And so he's been on the patches for just over 2 months. I think maybe 9 weeks now. And, you know, she said, how are you doing? He said, oh, I'm good. You know, some of my headaches coming back a little bit. And then her friend came home and said, hey, did he tell you about his eyes? And my mom was like, no, what about his eyes? And he just didn't think it was important to tell her that he was no longer wearing his reading glasses because he didn't need them anymore. So it's just funny how you have to kind of ask people questions, or the things that you don't necessarily realize, because needing reading glasses, especially when you're 85 years old, doesn't just go away on its own. You know, I've got several other stories, you know, an older couple who are my neighbors. Again, I shared this with them before I even saw anything with myself. And the gentleman's in his 80s, the woman, his wife in her 70s, and they were telling me all sorts of issues that they had. He had 3 types of cancer, heart issues. He had chronic pain syndromes, and he was on prednisone, chronic prednisone, chemotherapy. And then he had this patella fracture. And, you know, when they got to the list of that, I just thought, you know, are you interested in listening to something or hearing about something that might be able to help that's not traditional? And they said, absolutely. I put one of the patches on them. I sent them on their way home because they're neighbors. I said, I'll check on you later. I went at the end of the day, and the wife opened the door and she said, I don't know what is in this thing. She said, but we put the patch on his knee. The pain went away. He was doing stairs. He couldn't even do the 2 stairs of your front porch. You know, when they came to my house, she said he was doing stairs all day long, no pain. And I was like, wow, that's fantastic. And then I met them on one of my walks, day 9 of the patches. I didn't even know he had this problem with pain in his face. There's a syndrome called trigeminal neuralgia, and the nickname is the suicide disease because it's so painful. It supplies, the nerve supplies the facial area. But often people are in so much pain, they want to commit suicide. With him, it was triggered every single time he brushed his teeth. So he would often go days without brushing his teeth because that's how painful it was. And day 9 of these patches, he was just beaming because his wife was like, yeah, he has no more pain. The pain is completely gone. He has energy. He was doing a lot more walking. You know, she was having to kind of tone down the walking. They were very active before. But yeah, so there's just so many. I have so many testimonials, and these were people I shared with before I have even ever saw anything happening with me, just because of the nature of these patches. And I just wanted to bring something up here. Sorry if I'm going on long-winded here, but I wanted to make sure there are a couple of things that people are concerned about with the patches. And one of them is if you're on chemotherapy or if you have had an organ transplant. And now a lot of the oncologists, it's not that they are necessarily a contraindication, because they're not. But a lot of the oncologists don't want patients on any antioxidants while they're on chemotherapy, because they will basically counter what the chemotherapy is trying to do. Now, that depends on whether you want to go the chemotherapy route or not. But these patches, at least the X39, raise glutathione by 30%. And so that is a major, it's a master antioxidant. So if an oncologist doesn't want antioxidants, that is part of the issue when it comes to that. And again, with organ transplants, most people are on a lot of anti-rejection drugs. So you're having a foreign organ in your body, you have to be put on these medications so your body doesn't basically attack the organ and reject it. And so again, if you've got if you're using the patches and it's boosting your immune system, because that's one of the things that it's going to do, then you may be more apt to rejecting the organ. So those are just two caveats with the patches. Again, not necessarily contraindications, but things to take note of. So
Thanks, Rachel. And actually, on that note, if you don't mind clarifying, so if someone is going through chemotherapy, I mean, what I have seen in a lot of the guidance that we've received is that cancer patients can use the patch if they choose to, but then not patch on the chemo day and then resume again the next day.
yes, that is what I have heard. I've also heard of people just using the patches through everything. This gentleman, this
Right.
older one who I was talking about the nerve pain, he's on, because chemotherapy is very different. There are ones where you can just have sort of, you'll get, one kind of session of it, and then you're good for 3 weeks, and then you might have another one. Some people are on it constantly. They're taking some that are sort of a daily thing. So it's different. So I've seen people just using the patches through the whole thing.
Okay, great. And so before we get back to, again, the formal presentation, there are a couple questions here that I think it's relevant to bring up now. We can open it up for Q&A a little bit later, but there is a naturopath on the call. And the question is, why does the patch only work for a limited time? Example, like with the 12 hours. So maybe you could talk a little bit about the attenuation that happens and why we wouldn't want to patch for longer than 12 hours at a time.
Okay. I think there might be a couple of things there. I don't know if the question was why they don't last for more, or why. Anyways,
Yeah.
the material is such that it does degrade after 36 to 48 hours. So if you use the patch for, let's say, if you put it on for 6 hours, took it off, once it's activated, it will degrade by 48 hours, and it might sooner depending on the extent of the heat. So that's one thing to do with the patches. So the other one about wearing it for 12 hours and taking it off for 12 hours is there is, yes, what Beth just said, attenuation. And so sometimes, so you can imagine, and this is kind of like, I guess, a crude example, but if your kid came over and they started like slapping your leg, and you get annoyed with that, and you'd be like, stop. And then after a while, they keep doing it, because as kids do, that's what they do. And, you start to kind of tune out that sensation. You're getting on with whatever you're doing, and you're like, I can't stop my kid anymore. So he just keeps tapping your leg. You're not even paying attention. You don't even notice that they're tapping your leg anymore. So that's kind of attenuation. You don't respond anymore to the stimulus. And so that's what happens if you have too much light, if there's constant stimulation of light. So you want to have that break, that reset, so that you respond again to the stimulation the next day. Hopefully that answers that question.
That's great. Thank you. And then just one other one that came up, and I think I was able to answer it in the chats, but in terms of thyroid autoimmune issues. So we know that your mom has had great success in terms of coming off her Synthroid medication. That was, I think, just 2 weeks. You had mentioned she had been on the PAT 3 weeks. Okay. And then reduced her Synthroid medication in half. And that seems to be coming down even further. So we know it's not just thyroid medication. We're hearing of people actually coming off other pharmaceutical meds due to lab work, due to, what the doctors are finding in terms of follow-up.
Yes. I don't know. Sorry. Was there a question in there?
Sorry. I think it was just to me, but just in terms of thyroid autoimmune issues, but I think we hit it when we talked specifically about the thyroid.
And if I can just add as well, this was something that was told to me the other day, speaking of autoimmune, a friend of mine who I signed up in the UK actually told me about one of the people that she's connected with who has multiple sclerosis. This is kind of near to me because my father has MS as well. He's not open at this point to the patches, but this lady who was very debilitated, she basically would wake up, she was in a lot of pain, would basically spend her day sitting in a chair. That's the activity that she could do. She used to be a swimmer, used to ride horses, but it was 30 years since she'd done any of those. She actually had loss of sensation in her hands and in her legs, to the point where she could basically put her hand in a pot of boiling water and not feel it. So they had to revamp the house in terms of the thermostat and the water temperature and so on to work around this. She has been on the patches, the X39, for 2 months, just 2 months. She 2 weeks ago got back into swimming. She is up walking around. She has more energy, obviously, but she also noticed that she picked up a hot potato, which normally she wouldn't be able to feel before, and she basically threw it out of her hand because it was hot, and she actually felt that it was hot. So that's that's really quick. 2 months for, usually, again, those in healthcare on the call would know nerves regrowing, like that's it takes years kind of thing. That happens, but very at a snail's pace. So that was just remarkable. I just had to share that. So
Okay, great, thank you. And we can open it up for questions. I'm just going to share my screen again and let me know if you can see it. We're going to switch slides here. So we're going to talk a little bit, Rachel's going to talk a little bit about LifeWave, the company.
okay, I'm just gonna quickly go through the next couple of slides so we can get to the questions, because this is more I guess the business part of it. But it is important to know that the company it's actually, this slide is old. It's now a 20-year-old company. So it's not a startup that might just kind of go under, and it has taken off since the release of the X39. It went from grossing 20 million a year prior to the X39 to, I think it's on track now for over $500 million. So and the inventor's got some incredible things lined up that are coming out, and he is very aware of a lot of the things that are going on in the world and wants to make sure that that he brings things to the general population so that we are not forced to comply with a lot of what may be out there. It is now it's over 80 countries. The slide says 75, but it is in over 80 countries. So the distribution when you order comes from within your country. And the last thing here on the slide, which is, again, this is phenomenal. It's not a Me Too product, what does that mean? It means it's not, another juice. It's not another skincare product. It's not something that is competing with any other company. So this is really a standalone at this point in time, as long as that patent is still in effect, right? That's another 16 years. Nobody else is making a product like this on the market. All right, next slide. And so why would anybody want to use these patches? So what comes to mind, I think, for a lot of people and people on this call is freedom. What does freedom mean? Freedom means different things to different people, whether that means freedom to be able to do the activities that you want to do, whether that means freedom of for security, financial security, if you do the business part, freedom to travel. A lot of people, when their health is suffering, so many things are restricted. And if you love travel, if you can regain your health, you have the ability to travel. And better health, and that better health for me is really the one that stands out, because it just translates into everything. You want to spend more time with your family. If you're a grandparent, you want to keep up with your grandkids. You want to be able to do things with your grandkids. And if your health suffers, a lot of the times you're just watching, and that can be very heartbreaking. And again, health is one thing that I have seen declining in the entire time that I have been in the medical system, you know, and even with my colleagues, so many people just working their butts off to get to this retirement age. And as soon as they retire, their health has declined so much, then they're, you know, they've got cancer, they've got some chronic disease, and then they're just kind of plugged into our disease care system and not able to do the things that they want to do that they wanted to when they got to retirement. So health really translates into every other aspect of your life. So this is an incredible technology. Next slide, please. So how do we get started? Now, this slide will be changing at the end of September, just to note. But the ways to get in, you can get in on packages. Right now, we have ones where you can buy 1 sleeve, 3 sleeves, 5, you get 12, 19, a whole bunch of different ones. We've got the silver, gold, diamond. And again, there's just how many you want to get at one time. You can buy as a brand partner, which is what the slide is offering here. And what that really means is you don't even have to do any of the business. There is the business opportunity. I'm not going to get into too much detail about that, but just suffice it to say that there is an opportunity for the business side of it. And you can also just go in as a brand partner, not do the business at all, but you do get better deals when it comes to entering as a brand partner. Again, you're not tied or committed to anything entering this way. You can also purchase as a customer. But again, the brand partner way, what I wanted to say was, if you're a brand partner, you can share with anybody, family, friends, even people close to you. You don't have to share it as a business, but they can then purchase the product through you. Whereas if you were a customer, then you have to send them to a brand partner to be able to purchase them through a brand partner. The sleeves are, I'll just touch on this, they are $99 per month, and that is US dollars, just to be clear. But again, $99 a month, some people might think that is a fair amount of money, but if you actually take stock in your life at how you spend money, even just people, if they're still drinking coffee, a coffee a day, if you go to Starbucks, it's more, because these patches are $3 or $3.50 a day. Even a bottle of water, going out to eat, if people are drinking wine or alcohol, or anyone gets nails done, hair done, anything like that, you look around in your life, you'll see how much money is actually spent. And I would also just want to say that many people spend money on, for example, trying to avoid the traditional medical system, either going to a naturopath, for massage therapy, going to acupuncture, going to functional medicine, integrative medicine, and those are not inexpensive to seek out. So these patches really can actually mitigate a lot of the problems that you might continue to use those other types of strategies. All right. I think that might be the last slide of these questions.
So hopefully we've answered questions along the way, but we definitely encourage you, if you have questions at all about the patches, you know, about the different packages or even the business, let us know. I think it's really important too, those of you that are on the call that are watching the recording, if you are interested in learning more about it or signing up, important to get back to the person that invited you on this call. But we're more than happy to answer any further questions you might have. Thank you so much for sticking on this long, 1 hour and 20 minutes. We appreciate your time.
If I can, I just want to mention one last thing, and I know I think I might have forgotten on the last call, but I just wanted to reiterate here to make sure people know that these patches are not a replacement for a healthy lifestyle. And I say that just because I think I give my daughter a bit of grief sometimes, but you know, she asked me, well, if I take these patches, does that mean I can eat more junk food? And so I just want to make sure people understand it's not a replacement for a healthy lifestyle. It's in addition, it's just a tool to help enhance things, but really, you know, the health of our cells depend on the signals that we give it from the outside. And, you know, a lot of times people come to these patches because nothing seems to be nothing seems to be working, or they want something that is more natural than what other options there are, such as the pharmaceuticals. But I just wanted to make sure I stated that.
Awesome. Well, if there's no questions, I mean, we encourage you to, even if you want to unmute and ask anything that's coming to mind.
I have a question.
Yeah, great. Hi, Leah.
Can you wear the pain patches longer than 12 hours?
Okay. Yes, you can. So those are the only ones that you can wear. You can wear them for 24 hours, and then you can continue to wear them. And part of the reason for that is because the intent is not to wear them long term. They're to get you through the acute phase of the problem. And then the X39 is really where the repair and regeneration takes place. So once that starts kicking in, you won't need those pain patches anymore.
And then just one other one. I haven't been taking anything copper at all. So should I be implementing that now?
Yeah. So any of the foods that I had mentioned, is that something you haven't been?
Like I eat avocados and nuts and stuff, but I don't take like a supplement of any kind for copper. Hopefully I'm getting enough, but
So we need very little copper in our, for things to function. I mean, our mitochondria are extremely, I don't want to say dependent. They are dependent on copper. And so most of us don't get enough copper in our diet. So I would make sure that you're focusing on copper foods. If you don't think you're getting enough, if you wanted to supplement, I don't think you need to, if you do focus on the foods.
okay.
You really don't need a lot of copper.
Okay. What about like drinking? I see people buying those copper mugs and putting the water in the copper and letting it sit for the day. Do you think that's real? Like,
So copper, yes, a lot of ancient societies and cultures did use copper for a reason. There are benefits, yes. However, nowadays, how things are made, it's really important to make sure that you're getting just copper, because most of the copper things that are made are lined with nickel, and nickel's not good. It's a very oxidizing metal.
thanks for that. Good to know.
Welcome.
Rachel, there's a question in the chat if you don't mind reading that.
Oh. So my
From
sister,
Rowena.
just so everyone else knows, my sister was put on prednisone for pain with polymyalgia rheumatica. Can she take the patch? Okay, so I also like to make sure that just to reiterate again what Beth said at the beginning, it's not meant to cure, diagnose, or it's not any quote unquote medical treatment. And we try not to talk about medical diagnoses, right? It's about symptoms and what people are experiencing. So people who have had polymyalgia rheumatica, people who have had that, have used the patches and have seen changes in their symptoms. So that's how I can put it. And there are Facebook groups with tons of testimonials. And also YouTube, if you wanted to look up YouTube, the LifeWave testimonials, there's a lot of them. You can put in LifeWave and then whatever it is you want, and that might come up. Hopefully does that answer that, Rowena? Yeah, okay.
And one question just came in. So is it helpful with autoimmune diseases? Yes, many great testimonials with autoimmune diseases. That's what you would find as well on those Facebook groups. Again, we can't say specifically that they are treating or curing, but people provide their testimonials of their own experiences, and they share what's happening with them, recognizing that this stem cell regeneration is about healing the body. So what is the Facebook name? Okay, yeah, I can, or if someone wants to put in the chat, there is one public one that you don't have to be invited to. It's called Patching with Purpose.
Oh, no, you do have to be invited.
Oh, do you? Okay. Patching with Purpose. But you don't, sorry, I guess you don't have to be a LifeWave member. So it can be anyone that's checking out the testimonials and what people's experiences are. So who Who was asking? Okay, so I'm not sure who had invited you to the call, the iPhone there, MSICA, but you can get back to your enroller and they can, or the person that invited you on the call, and they can invite you. Unless you provide us your name, then we can.
If I can add, I just want to add one last thing, just because there's this idea, because we have a conventional medical system, that there's all these diagnoses. I think like the latest is like 35,000 in the Mark manual. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Killian, but this is where kind of medicine silos itself, and we like to divide everything and focus in on the details. And with a lot of the unlearning and relearning that I have kind of done, there's a lot of things that I kind of say now, like, well, of course, that's so obvious to me now. But really, where our diseases come from at the foundational level is because our cells are dysfunctional. And it's a matter of cellular dysfunction. So we want to help repair the cells. And it depends where your cells are dysfunctioning, where you will express those symptoms. So if you have more cells dysfunctional, say in a kidney, you might be labeled with some kind of kidney disease. But it's really at the cellular level where we want to heal. And these patches help with healing at the cellular level. So it's really an overall helpful technology. That makes sense. And as well, I just wanted to add this as because we're talking about diseases and such. My son, so I've got my son, both my kids are using the patches. They are 19 and 17. But my son has been using them for a while because he wanted to increase his strength, power, stamina, and so on. And of course, he's got a lot of buddies that they're all like working out and such. And over the summer, he's playing soccer with a lot of his high school friends. And one of them just happened to be overhearing and seeing these patches and asked me about them. And he's like, oh, can I maybe try one? Because I'm doing landscaping and my back is sore. And he's going to massage. He's doing all these things. He's only 19. And I said, yeah, of course. I put, one of those pain ones on. And he played a soccer game. And, I went over after the kids stopped playing. And I was like, how'd it go? And he's like, I can't believe it. He's like, my pain is gone. The pain in my back is gone. I can't believe it. What? I don't know. I don't understand this. It was really cute, but it's not just for older people with all of everything that's failing with us.
And so Billy Joe, what about vaccine injuries? So, I mean, I've seen a lot of testimonials of people talking about healing from, they often call it long COVID, right? And it could very well be that. But I think no matter what is going on in the body, and I have seen testimonials and people on calls talking about their symptoms after being injected, and things have definitely improved. So whether they were, diagnosed with POTS, whether they were diagnosed with, whatever, long COVID, there are definitely improvements that they are making. And I can actually send you a great testimonial along those lines. Do you find kids heal quicker?
I think so. I mean, from what I've seen, I think we saw there was even that one that we saw in Patches with Purpose with this kid who had strabismus, where the eyes, they're not straight on, they're to the side, or at least one of them was, I think. This kid had the patch on for 4 weeks and his eyes were in alignment again. I mean, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
All right. And okay, so toxins damage the mitochondria, so having a patch that can increase cellular support. Exactly. Because our mitochondria they're the energy factories of our cells, of our body. So absolutely.
And I don't know, Henrik, I think that's how you pronounce your name. I think you unmuted yourself a little bit ago. I don't know if you had a specific question that you'd like to have answered.
Yes, actually, I was asking. I wanted to ask if you do exercise, swimming, and stuff. Can you still wear it?
Yes.
Yes, you can.
And if you say 12 hours, so if you put it on 7 o'clock in the morning, you have to take it off 7 o'clock at night, right? You don't sleep with it, or you cannot sleep with it, or can you?
Correct.
It's-
So thank you for bringing that up. Okay. Yeah, the X39 in particular, because it does improve and increase energy, you don't want to wear it at night. You want to wear it during the day. But there are patches that are designed to wear at night. A few of the ones that he designed before the X39 can be worn at night.
And David had a question. What would be the ideal conditions for best possible result per day using the patch, and how young could kids be if they were to use one?
Okay, what would be ideal conditions for best possible results per day using the patch? I'm not sure I understand. Maybe you can clarify what time of the day?
Hey, how are you doing?
Hi, David.
Hey there. Yeah, no, it's just you know, I'm doing some kind of gut health thing, in a tech stuff, and I asked him the same sort of question, like, what kind of conditions would be ideal for this in a tech product to repair my leaky gut problem? You know, what foods do I avoid? What activities should I avoid? Whatever. With this product here, I know there's it magnifies light of some kind, like within you, or if I'm gathering correctly.
It's reflecting specific frequencies of light back into the body, and it increases DHKCU peptide, which is
So ideally you'd want to have a bit of sunlight. Is that correct?
well, that would be for a different reason.
No.
You don't need sunlight for these patches because you're using the light that you are creating inside of you.
Okay, so how do you is there a way to increase the light that's within you? Like, is that possible?
Yeah, to optimize your health, and that's a long conversation.
It would be, but that's why I'm asking, like, is sunlight, like if you do spend a bit of time in the sun, would that be beneficial or not when using a patch? You don't want to, you don't necessarily want to sit in front of a computer, you know, ideally, or sit in a dark room or something, like, you know what I mean?
Yes. So that I'm not sure I can be concise in answering that, but suffice it to say, we evolved under natural light. So technically we should be under natural lighting 24/7. We should not be in front of artificial lighting. I have blue blocking glasses on, being in front of the computer, but there's a lot of damage that's done to the body from artificial light and technology. And that's part of the reason that we need these healing modalities, because there is so much that is harming us from our environment.
Yeah, and that kind of feeds into my question a little bit, like, what would be the ideal conditions? Like, I understand there's a lot of harmful, I don't know, 5G, high frequency, Wi-Fi type of material going through the air. Is there like an ideal time or condition?
So, yeah, so what I do one-on-one with people is help them with enhancing, like, as well as on top of the patches, changing their lifestyle habits to give them the best possible signals for their bodies to work the best. And so that is what I'm feeling from the question is it would be something that I would have to work with you one-on-one. It's too long of an answer.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you.
And
Yeah, no problem.
I'd just like to add too that, I mean, the X39 as well as another patch, an X49, they act as a protector against EMF and what we're exposed to, which is amazing. Like, there is one other patch, the X49, that acts like a Faraday cage, but even the X39 alone does give us some protection against EMF exposure.
Can
Just
I just-
along.
Can I just say something about that?
Yeah.
I'm on both patches, X39, X49, and I'm around EMFs all the time. And since wearing these patches, I can come home now and I can go and do so much more in my life after than before wearing them. I would come home literally from being around those EMFs all the time and I would be having a nap. And now I'm coming home, I'm going for a walk, I'm making food, I'm having friends over, I'm doing dinner parties. I don't know if that helps you at all, David, to understand that one patch, but that's seriously the life change it's done for me in a month.
Yeah, like that makes sense. You know, if you can mitigate the damage and the effects of the environment around you and increase the benefits of wearing the other patch, that's sort of my question. Like, what would be the ideal circumstances to receive the best kind of repair? You know, you don't want to be working, you know, the left hand doesn't want to be working against the right hand, so to speak. But if there's a way to complement both and you get better results faster, that's just what I was more or less getting at. So that helps me a lot. Yeah. Thank you.
I don't think we live in environments like that, sadly, anymore. Like for me and my work, I get outside as much as I can when I'm not at work, but it still wouldn't be enough.
And there is a follow-up. David had, sorry, Rachel, if you wanted to
I was
add
just
on
gonna
to
say
that.
that's great to that, what Leah explained. I think that's a great, like testimonial.
Yes. And David, your follow-up question, how young could kids be if they were to use one? Great question.
Yes, and so there have been no studies done with children or pregnant women, so it's up to the parent to decide. Having said that, we have seen a lot of testimonials of people using them in small children, so that really would be up to you. Again, there's nothing from the outside, nothing entering the body from the patches. It's only using what you already have in your body.
Great. Any other questions? Anyone else want to unmute? Did we answer everything? All right. Well, we thank you so much again for taking this time, an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes, to join us today to educate yourselves on this revolutionary phototherapy patch. So I appreciate you coming on the call, and reach out to whoever invited you on the call to learn more, to sign up. We'd love to have you on the team.
Yes, thank you very much. And I just saw a question, do we have these meetings often? So Beth and I were actually looking at doing these as recurring meetings. So we don't have that schedule yet, but we will be doing them more often.
In that way, yes. I mean, if you're wanting to share, this will be recorded, so we'll be sharing that out. So even from your sponsor or whoever has enrolled you, or however you found out about this, they could have the recording and share it, so you can share it out. But then in the future, we hope that you could invite people that would also benefit from this to these future live meetings, and we can answer their questions live. Thank you, Jay. Thanks,
Yeah.
Cindy. Thanks, Kathy. Thank you all. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you for taking the time.
Bye.
Bye.